3 and well done for our fantastic lesson last time all about food, glorious food. And lots of children commenting that they had a really good time learning about that. And I thought that your work was absolutely great. Great. It was great work. So this topic, we are looking into the question, what should we know about our food? And we started by looking at the Eat Well plate, which you can see in front of me. What can you remember about the Eat Well plate? Can you remember any of the names of the food groups? Can you remember how much of them we should eat? Can you remember any of the foods that fit into the different groups? Well done if you remembered that this group here, which is the largest group, is called the fruit and vegetable group. Well done if you remembered that this group over here, the second largest group, is called the carbohydrate group. Remember, most of the carbohydrates are either potato or they are wheat-based products or grain-based products, so things like cereal or things that are made from wheat or rye or barley, things like pasta, porridge that's made from oats, bread that's made from flour, rice. They're all carbohydrates and they're slow release in terms of energy, so they keep you fuller for longer. Well done if you remembered that the fats and sugar group is the smallest group. Here we've got some vegetable oil and some low-fat spread. That's things like butter. But butter is a funny one because it can fit in the fats group because it is a fat, but it also is made from dairy. We have our dairy group. Well done if you remembered that's this one here. And well done if you remembered that the protein group is this one. In the protein group, that's where we find meat, fish, and eggs. If you don't eat meat and fish because you're vegetarian, how can you get protein into your diet? Well done if you remembered that you can eat nuts and you can eat lentils, you can eat chickpeas and pulses that would all give your body protein. Oh look, hello Sonic. Let's have a look at what we're doing. Look, we're finding out all about different foods and vegetables. What's that? You like eating food a lot? Yeah, I bet you do. What's your favourite food? Slugs and snails on toast. Oh, I'm not sure that I like that very much. What about you? Do you think you would like that? I wouldn't. So it's really important that we eat lots of different foods. And today we're going to focus on one food group in particular. Which food group do you think it could be? Could you make a prediction? What do you think, Sonic? I think it might be the fruits and vegetable group. I don't know. I wonder if anybody thinks the same as you. I wonder if anybody's got any different ideas. Let's see what it could be. It is, drum roll please, dairy. It's the dairy group today. So what kind of things might we see in the dairy group? What's that, Sonic? Would there be no, there's no slugs and snails in the dairy group, Sonic. This is all things that are made with dairy products. So things like milk, yogurt, cheese, butter is there. We talked about that one earlier, being a fat, but also being part of dairy because it is made from dairy things. And my personal favourite, cheese. Love cheese. So that brings us nicely onto Battle of the Dairy. So if you had to choose a dairy, which one would you have? Would you choose to have cheese? Would you choose milk? Would you choose cream? Would you choose yogurt? I think we know which one Sonic likes. Or would you choose butter? Tell me now, which one would you pick? Brilliant. So as you can see here, we've got some milks as well. Does anybody know why in the supermarket we have milk in different coloured packaging? Some milks are packaged in blue, some milks are packaged in red, and some milks are packaged in green. So does anybody know what that difference is going to be? Well done if you said it's to do with the fat content. It is. Some of them have got the full fat content. So this is whole milk, which means that none of the fat that's naturally in the milk has been removed. The red is skimmed milk, and that means that all of the fat has been removed from the milk. And then the green is semi-skimmed milk, which means that half of the fat has been removed from that one. So why do we need to eat dairy foods? It's really important for our diet that we do eat dairy foods because they contain something called calcium. And calcium is really useful for three main things. The first it's used for is making strong. Oh, and there's a picture clue there. What do you think it could be? Well done if you said bones. It is. It's making strong bones. The second thing is that it's useful for making strong. It begins with a T. Give you a clue. It is for making strong teeth. Well done. And finally, it is for making our something work properly. Well done if you said muscles. So calcium, which is important for our bodies, is used to make strong bones, strong teeth, and make sure that our muscles work properly. How does this connect to our previous learning? Have a think. How does that connect to our last lot of learning in science? Well done if you said because we learned about the human skeleton, including bones. We did. Well done if you also said because when we talked about the human skeleton and bones, we knew that teeth is made of a similar product like bone. And well done if you spotted the bicep and the tricep here that are making the arm bend. I wonder, can you use your brilliant brains to remember what was happening when our arm was bent? What is the bicep doing? Is it pulling or is it relaxing? Have a think. It is pulling. So the bicep's pulling because it's pulling the radius and the ulnar up. What's the tricep doing underneath? Well done if you said relaxing. It is. That's fantastic. Thinking about our previous learning. I love it when we make connections in science. So if you can't eat dairy, like me, I'm lactose intolerant, which means that I can't drink milk because it makes me poorly. So instead, I would like to say, move over cows, because there's a new milk in town, and that is the alternative milks like soya milk or lactose-free milk, where they take the lactose out of the milk so that I can drink it. And they also do lots of different nut milks as well, which don't have any lactose in. And that means that our bodies can still get calcium. What are the 3 things that our bodies need calcium for? Well, it's for strong bones, well remembered. It is for strong teeth, and it is for strong and healthy muscles. Well done. So it's really important that even if you can't drink dairy because you're lactose intolerant, that you have an alternative that has still got calcium in. What I'd like you to do now is to try task 1 on the task sheet. So if you can print it off, you can write it on the sheet. If you haven't got a printer, don't worry. If you write it in your book, that would be great. So I'd like you to draw some pictures and write some words to explain why we need calcium in our diet. And then see if you can explain how people who can't eat dairy still get calcium into their bodies. Once you've done that, press play to see the next part of the video.
We're covering science and design and technology objectives today. We are learning how to turn cream into butter. First, you need to take your cream out of the fridge about half an hour before you start, or up to an hour before you start. Pour it halfway into the jar. Then make your first observation. What is it like? Is it a solid or is it a liquid? What colour is it? Make a note of these things either on your task sheet, or if you've not got a printer, just record these ideas down on your piece of paper. Once you've made your observations, securely put the lid on. Then you will need to do the lid check, turn it upside down and make sure there are no leaky bits. We don't want to leak any cream onto our table. So now we've got our cream ready. Our next stage is to shake. So I wonder who's going to be the best shaker. We need strong wrists, strong hands, and we need to give it a good shake. Really shake it, shake it, shake it. Have lots of fun with this. Might make your arms quite tired, but we want to shake it and shake it and shake it, and the more you shake it, the better it's going to be. And the quicker it will be changing from cream and into butter. So keep shaking it. When you get tired, pass it around to somebody else in your family or somebody else nearby that can take over and give it a good shake. So off it goes. 5 minutes of vigorous shaking, your cream will probably look like this. So I've taken off the lid. Just be careful as you do this because mine did splatter across the table a little bit. We're going to make our next science observation. So it was very much a liquid before, even though it was quite thick, and it was cream in colour. What can we say about it now? It is still quite liquid-like, but it is becoming more solid. So we're going to put the lid back on and give it another vigorous shake. So it's been another 5 minutes of vigorous shaking. This time when I took the lid off, no splats at all. And I found that it actually looked like this inside now. I imagine there's some air at the bottom, and I would imagine that it's all stuck near to the top. So it's still not butter yet, but what has changed? Well done if you spotted that it's no longer a liquid. It's definitely changing into a solid. It's still cream in colour, but yeah, it's certainly turned into more of a whipped, thick cream consistency. So we're going to stick the top back on and we're going to keep shaking until we can turn it into butter. Okay, so I've been shaking vigorously for about 15 minutes, and I don't know about you, but my arms feel like they might just begin to drop off soon. So as you can see, it's again starting to change, and now I'm starting to get clear sections on the outside of the glass. The whipped cream has been over whipped and is starting to turn it into butter. So you can see that it's looking more yellowy now than cream, and you can see that again it's definitely turning into a solid. It needs more shaking yet because it's still quite lumpy, and the texture around the top still does look like cream. So it will be lid back on, more shaking, and then eventually we should start to see some butter being formed. Can you imagine before factories how long it used to take people to churn butter? It must have been back-breaking work. So I'm still shaking, but as you can see, it's starting to clear and it's starting to look a little bit more like butter. Can you see that there is suddenly some liquid that's starting to form in the jar? This is called the buttermilk. So we still need to keep shaking because what we need to do now is separate the butter from the buttermilk. So keep shaking, even when it's starting to look like this butter, it's nearly there, but we need some more shaking. So again, it might be time to pass it on to other people in the family or in your house to let them give it a good shake too. You see some of that liquid look across the bottom. We need to get some more of that out of the butter so that we've got our piece of solid butter and then our liquid buttermilk. It now becomes a lot easier to shake, and you should be able to see all that liquid that is separated from the butter. Some more vigorous shaking, this will be what you can see. So you should have found that you have got a liquid now, which is called the buttermilk, and you have got the solid, which is the butter. So for that final observation, what can you see now? Hopefully you should see that the butter is a solid yellow ball, and that the buttermilk is like a clear white liquid. So what we need to do now is remove the butter from the jar, and then we can keep the buttermilk in the jar. Buttermilk will last in the fridge for up to a week, and you can use this instead of milk in any kind of baking really. It's supposed to make the bakes taste really creamy, so it's particularly good in scones, muffins, pancakes, those kind of things. And the butter will keep for up to 5 days in the fridge. Now this is unsalted butter, so if you normally have salted butter, you can sprinkle a little bit of salt over the top of the butter before you spread it onto your toast or your crackers, but then it is ready to try and see what you think.
Is change onto some design and technology. Sonic's going to head off, so if everybody wants to just say bye to Sonic. and he's going to go and take a nap or go for some, what's that? You think you might go for a little snack now? All that food's made you hungry. What are you going to have for your snack? Maybe some fresh worms. That sounds delicious, Sonic. See you later then. Bye. So as I was saying, we are going to move on to some of our design and technology objectives now. We're going to think about where cheese actually comes from and how it's actually made. This is task 3 on your task sheet. So where does the cheese in your sandwich come from? Now, when I've asked children this question before, they've told me, well, it's just there. Or they say, my mum or dad put it there when they made the sandwiches. Or they say, well, we got the cheese from the supermarket. Well, that's just not the full story of where cheese actually comes from and how it's made. When I worked with some Year 1 children, I said to them, how do you think cheese is made? And I had some very interesting ideas, as you can see. These 3 are my particular favourites of how they thought that cheese is made. So the first one was that cheese grows on trees. So I don't know about you, but I've never heard of a cheese tree before. Somebody else said, I know how cheese is made. It's made in cows' tummies. Again, I'm not sure about that one. And the final one child put their hand up and said, well, I know this, cheese is made on the moon. Now, if you are a fan of Wallace and Gromit, then you might agree that cheese is made on the moon. However, we're in Year 3, and we know that actually each of those is wrong. We don't grow cheese on trees. We don't have anything like a cheese tree. We can't get cheese from the moon. The moon is definitely not made of cheese, and cheese is definitely not made in cows' tummies. So where does it actually come from? We're going to investigate. What I'd like you to do now is watch the 2 videos that explain the journey from grass in a field to cheese at the supermarket. Then, if you've got time, you could have a go at retelling the story yourself with some actions. You might want to film that and send that in to us through Dojo. You might just want to enjoy watching the videos and learning about how cheese is made.
How is grass turned into milk? Isn't it amazing that the milk that makes Wensleydale cheese starts out as grass in the fields of the Yorkshire Dales? James is a local farmer here in Wensleydale. His cows are called Friesian cows. Friesians have black and white markings and they are really good at producing milk. They're also very friendly to work with. To us, the cows might all look the same, but James can recognise each of them from their individual markings. Each of the cows can produce about 25 litres of milk every day. That's enough milk from one cow for you to have 100 bowls of cereal for your breakfast. But to make cheese, you need a lot of milk. It would take 10 glasses of milk to make just one standard-size packet of cheese.
Wow, that's an incredible amount of milk that we need just to make one block of cheese.
In order to make such large amounts of milk, the cows need to be fit and eat healthily. They have a favourite food. Can you guess what it is? Yes, fresh green grass, and they need to eat a lot of it every day. In fact, they eat the same as 1/5 of their body weight. That's the same as you eating 10 loaves of bread in one day. And for cows to turn the grass they eat into milk, they first have to digest it. We humans can't digest grass because we only have one stomach. But cows have 4, and as the grass moves through these 4 stomachs, the cow is able to absorb its nutrients to help make the milk. The cow stores the milk in its udders until it is time for milking. James and the other farmers milk their cows twice a day, once in the early morning and then again later in the afternoon. Every morning the fresh milk is collected by a lorry. The lorry takes it to the creamery where they start the process of turning the milk into cheese. How is milk turned into cheese? Humans have been making cheese since the Egyptian times. That's over 5,000 years ago. And the process that a modern cheesemaker follows hasn't changed very much since then. Milk from local farms arrives at the creamery every morning. The milk has to be fresh to make delicious cheese, so they start the process straight away. First, the milk is poured into big metal baths, called vats, and stirred. Next, they have to sour it by adding a starter culture, which is like yogurt and contains friendly bacteria. This starts the process of curdling the milk and splitting it into two parts: the solid curds, which become the cheese, and the whey, the leftover watery liquid. At this point, the curds are chopped up and they add salt. The salt stops the cheese going off and brings out the flavour. Next, the curds are squished and squeezed into pots, a bit like making sandcastles. After a couple of days, each block of cheese is taken out of the pot and wrapped up in cheesecloth. Cheesecloth is used to protect the cheese. It's a special fabric which allows the cheese to breathe while it ages. Now it's time to wait for the cheese to mature. This can take from a few weeks to anywhere up to 2 years. The older the cheese, the harder, drier and stronger the flavour. The cheesemakers have to taste the cheese regularly for flavour and quality, to check whether it's ready to be packed up and sent to your local shop.
Okay, so wasn't that interesting having a look to see how cheese is made and having a look inside the factory? If you have got time and you'd like to, you could have a go at retelling how the cheese is made and do some actions. You could even video yourself and send that in on a portfolio. If you haven't got time to do that, don't worry, just having a look at the video and seeing how cheese is made is really good.